Hello, hello. My name is Karina Anglada, and welcome to today's digital event Create Branded Content at Scale using Adobe Firefly. In this conversation, we're going to explore how big brands are using Adobe Firefly Custom Models, Adobe's game changing generative AI technology, to enhance their creative team's ability to create and scale campaigns. If you know, you know. You've just produced a major photo shoot and got an incredible set of photos that are going to drive the entirety of your next major campaign. But even though you spent all this money and all this time building this campaign from the ground up, somehow it's still not enough. Seasons change, trends evolve, and customers need new, novel, and exciting campaign visuals to keep them engaged. If only there were a way to take what you have and refresh it without spending the time or money season after season, trend after trend, just to keep it up to date. In our conversation today, we're going to tell you not only how possible it is, but how agencies and brands are using technology to achieve these goals right now. And we'll share how you can do it too. In just a moment, we're going to bring out Andy Duke, Director of Creative and Experience Design from Kinesso, an arm of IPG Media Brands, whose team has been working with Firefly Custom Models to create content for one of the world's most recognizable brands, Amazon Fresh. Before we get into it, just a couple of notes to get us started. First, yes, this event is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the replay in your email after the event. Second, we want to hear your questions. Drop your questions into the question mailbox in the top right corner of On24 for a chance to have them answered live by our guests. And finally, there is more to this experience than we can share on air. So check out the resources we have linked for you just below my video when you click the book icon. Any other questions during the show? Put them in the question mailbox and one of our Adobe experts will get back to you with an answer. With that, let's get started. Please meet Andy Duke, Director of Creative and Experience Design at Kinesso. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, Karina. Awesome to be here.
So great to be here. And thank you for joining us today. We are thrilled to have you here.
My
It's
pleasure.
clear. Yeah. It's clear that brands need fresh and on-brand content faster than ever. But keeping up with trends can be a challenge, and scaling content without losing that creative control is key. So, Andy, you work with brands tackling this issue. What is the current landscape and what challenges are you facing and how are you adapting?
Yeah, I mean it's a big question. The biggest thing at the moment is the increase in demand that we're seeing for branded content from the brands that we work with. I think there's a stat on the first slide that most people have seen in some variation over the last year or so. This idea that demand for on-brand creative assets is higher than it's ever been. Conservative estimates put it around a 5-time increase. Others all the way up to 20x. And the traditional creative workflow really struggles to accommodate that scale. Everyone can't just work 20 times harder or produce 20 times more work. So this idea of integrating AI into your creative workflow is just more important than it's ever been. But the challenge we find and the challenge other people find is doing this without sacrificing the quality or the authenticity of your branded content. And we call that the challenge of scale without compromise. So I want to show you an example of how we achieved this scale without compromise with one of our clients, Amazon Fresh. So we've been working with Amazon Fresh as a creative partner for a long time now, and we've seen firsthand through them the increase in demand for more and more branded assets. And we've met that demand for the most part in the same way we've always done, by creating more of these branded assets ourselves. You can see on screen here, these are shots from behind the scenes of one of our photo and video shoots that we conduct throughout the year for various different campaigns for the brand. And we get great assets from these shots. Wonderfully bespoke photography, nothing that feels stock. And we use these photos and these videos to create marketing assets across multiple channels, as well as the Amazon website itself. And we're super proud of that work. When we go to the Amazon homepage and we see a banner that we're responsible for producing, it's something we're super proud of. And these assets, as we said at the start, though, the challenge is meeting the demand for having more and more assets. We're seeing the demand for more campaigns. There's more products than ever, more ads to A/B test, more localized assets for different markets, and everything, all the while ensuring that it performs as well as it can. And that's quite a big challenge. So we turned to Adobe Firefly's custom model feature to help us with that, to help us create new assets that we knew would still reflect the same high brand standards as we were getting from the photo shoot. So to explain the process, we took a selection of on-brand images that we had from our photo shoots, and we used those then to train up a custom model in Adobe Firefly. And you can see on the screen some of the results. So shots that we took from one of our real evergreen photo shoots, you can see on the left. And then on the right are some examples of completely AI generated images that we've been able to produce for a Christmas campaign using the custom trained model. And you can see it's really nailed everything. If we just go back one slide, the composition is right, the lighting's the same, even the design and angle of the kitchen that it's producing, it's replicated it perfectly from the actual photographs that we took from the shoot. So all of a sudden we can really ramp up and get return on investment from a photo shoot using things like evergreen assets from January to create a completely new Christmas campaign photo shoot using AI in December. So it's really, really exciting. And then once the model's trained up and we're confident in it, we can really ramp things up and produce content at scale without compromise. So everything you can see on screen at the moment was produced by the custom Firefly model, by us using a Christmas campaign ideas that we came up with. And it's all in line with that really specific brand style and visual consistency that we need for Amazon. So it's a massive success.
A massive success indeed. That is incredible. And I love just the attention to detail, like you said, with the angle of the kitchen and being able to make all these assets at scale, but also still match that brand integrity that you kind of referenced. I'm curious if can you speak to the ways that Firefly has really helped the team where it mattered the most?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're actually having it on the next slide. So, one of the things that I always come back to, one of my favorite examples of where a model really helped us when we needed it, is the Santa hat made of strawberries that we've got on screen at the moment. So, to give the background, this is another custom model that we trained up using our back to school photo shoot that we did. And as you can see on the left, it's a really nice top lay aesthetic, really shows off the product. And we did this for the kind of start of the school year earlier on in the year. But we're able to use these assets again to train up another custom model using Firefly that we were then able to use to explore some really exciting creative directions for a Christmas campaign. And that's again something that our traditional workflow and the timelines that we had just wouldn't have allowed for. So you can see it's on brand, it's fun, it's seasonal, and it was on time. And it's something that we just wouldn't have had the opportunity to do given where we were in the year with a more traditional workflow. So the fact we were able to use the model to produce things like the Santa's hat made of strawberries, or one of the things I love as well, the snowman made of cheese, is a great example of where having this custom model just gave us opportunities that we otherwise wouldn't have had.
That's
And again,
incredible.
on the
I
next
love
slide, again, we've a little gallery of all the images that were created using Firefly specifically for Amazon. And it's good for showing another critical part of the process. It's one thing to have the ability to produce images with a custom model, but you still have to have the creative vision to know what images to produce. And this really
Mhm.
shows how you can have fun and explore creative possibilities using AI. You can play around with different layouts. You can have fun and experiment with different subject matters, and really push the envelope and arrive at crazy ideas like a Santa hat made of strawberries or a snowman made of cheese. And those are just off the wall ideas that actually work really well, that we were only able to happen across because we were experimenting and playing with what was viable using the model itself. So it's a really fun kind of visual creative experimentation tool as well.
I love that because you mentioned the creative flexibility and how Firefly allowed your team to essentially be a little bit more malleable and also experiment a little bit more. And you referenced it earlier, but can you share a little bit more on how to hone in and really refine images to make sure they're consistent with a brand and its vision? And have you run into any instances where you like the images that are produced, but you might tweak or refine them for a few different reasons?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's in my experience one of the most common issues that you see with the uses of AI. So there's almost, if you think of it, two different points in the creative process where AI can play a part. You've got those initial creative stages where you're almost playing a slot machine. You pull in a lever and seeing what comes out, and you can have some great fun and really experiment, and it's amazing and exciting. But there is that other side of the creative process where you do need the exact control of the output when you're aiming for that pixel perfection with your layouts in terms of the composition, where you don't have the flexibility, and that's a really integral part of the creative process. And this is where I've seen a lot of people struggle using AI. They can create something fun, but not necessarily create something that's viable for real world use. And the way that we've been able to combat this, we use a great feature within Firefly called composition reference images. That's what you can see on screen at the moment. And it really gives you that level of exact control. So in this example, we played around with the model, and we decided that we want to create an image with some pasta and some oranges using that top lay back to school model that I showed earlier. But what we needed to do was have it in a very specific layout. We want to leave some space for text and logos in the top right. So what we're able to do is add in a composition reference image, which is what this gray block on the left is. Think of it as like a super rudimentary wireframe that just uses shapes. It can be like I've got here, just blocks and shapes, or it can be a super quick sketch that you might have done. And then you add that into Firefly along with the custom model and along with the text prompt, and it almost paints the AI image over the top of that wireframe. You can play around with the strength of how well it's going to adhere to how rigidly you want it to adhere to the custom composition reference image that you've added, and again, play around and get different results out of it. But yeah, for me and the team, it's really the missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to integrating AI fully into your workflow. It's allowed us to achieve that scale without compromise that I talked about at the top. We're super pleased with it. Really proud of the work as well.
It's incredible, and I love your example of using the wireframe as the composition reference, because you can see in the side by side, it did such an incredible job. That is outstanding. I'm curious, do you have any favorite outputs that really stuck with you that you're most proud of?
I mean, I love the Santa's hat made of strawberries, but the one of the silliest and most fun examples is the snowman made of cheese. This was just an example from someone in the team was kind of using like really short prompts just to play around and experiment with ideas. And I think when they just typed in a snowman made of cheese, they probably had a really daft vision in their mind of like a 3D snowman. But the model took that, kind of looked at the products it had to play with, and you can see it's replicated those kind of circular cheese wheels and come up with a visual, a creative concept that we perhaps wouldn't have had unless we were in that kind of fun new experimentation phase that only becomes possible when you've got a model like this to play with. So the snowman made of cheese is my answer to that question.
I love it. I love it. It's where innovation happens. And now I want some cheese. Andy,
Yeah, it
this
makes you
has
hungry,
been
doesn't it, with all this?
yeah, for sure. This has been so awesome to hear you share about your incredible work and your experience with us. And our audience has been loving it too. So we'd love to ask you some questions. You ready for some?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. So Luke is asking, Andy, can you tell us why would you start with a photo shoot and then not just generate with AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it comes back to that scale without compromise. That idea that you really have to commit to when you're using AI, still producing something that is in line with what you would get from more traditional means. I don't think you can move to AI and that come with a drop in quality. Or a drop in adherence to brand, or a drop in, how well you tell that brand story. Um, and the best way of doing that is taking, I think, something like a photo shoot that you know is going to be completely within your control, is completely aligned to that brand's vision, and then giving it that as a starting point. And it is that starting point, that extension of a real world photo shoot, that I think is so critical to this. If you were just using the model in its own state, you wouldn't kind of get the nuance and the specificity that you get from having a photo shoot to train it up on.
That makes so much sense. And being able to fine tune, like you mentioned, and have that creative control over everything. It actually leads to our second question. Angelic asked, how long did it take you to build up your custom model?
It's a relatively quick process, to be honest. There's a bit of work to be done around selecting the images that you want to use to train the model. We kind of learned through a few iterative attempts the best approach for that. And I think what I would recommend to people who are trying to build a custom model is, don't try and go too broad. Almost try and pick one aesthetic or one look to try and train the model up on, because otherwise you kind of giving it too many different visual styles and cues to pick up on. It can get a little bit muddled. Whereas we picked specific shots from the photo shoot that represented that image and that style, that aesthetic. And then once the images are produced, the actual the technical part of adding it into the tool is relatively quick. It's minutes and hours rather than days and weeks. There's a process around ensuring that the model tags the images up correctly, but again, that's just an element of human oversight to the process. But yeah, minutes and hours is the answer to that. Which normally, for something that traditionally would have taken weeks, if not months.
Easily, and just yeah, comparing the contrast of what it was before and the time saving is just outstanding, and then
Yeah,
also
it's a
seeing
game
how
changer.
yeah, and the quality of the output too, like combining everything, the things that we can control, like the photo shoots, and pairing that with Firefly and getting it to and create all of these incredible assets. It's astounding. So we have another question where Jim asked, are these outputs directly from Firefly, or were there any additional touch-ups in post?
So the ones that are on these slides are all direct Firefly output with no editing. What we then did with our process, and it'll vary depending on the use, is we took these assets and we would then add them into different layouts and compositions using other Adobe tools. Because obviously for a lot of the advertising that we produce, we would need to overlay text or calls to action or different
Mhm.
logos. Um, and yeah, there were some instances where we might need to make some kind of more small minor adjustments or touch ups. You pull it into a different Adobe tool for that. But yeah, everything that's on the slides at the minute is straight out of a Firefly unedited.
That's incredible. I love that. And also, like you mentioned, being able to take it and add some a little bit more creative control with some creative cloud tools is astounding. That's a whole nother session, I feel like, that we could get into just on that. We've got another question from Paul who asked, how do you see generative AI like Firefly transforming the creative industry over the next few years?
That is a big question. We could probably do another hour just chatting through that one. I think
Yeah.
the the exciting answer really is no one knows. Everything's moving so fast at the moment, and kind of new features and enhancements are dropping almost weekly that we're almost struggling to keep up and understand the capabilities that it's going to unlock. I think my own personal opinion is I think it's going to open up a whole new creative avenue of this kind of idea of hyper personalization. I think when it becomes this easy to create content at scale, the idea of what that scale is, it can't just be content for content's sake. We have to do something with it,
Mhm.
something creative, something that kind of pushes the envelope, something that helps businesses perform. And I think the idea of hyper personalization is going to be a really key one. I genuinely think it's going to increase the level of creativity as well. I know there's a lot of skeptics out there, but I really think, as I said earlier, using it almost as a creative ideation tool, we're already seeing that it allows people to experiment a lot quicker with creative ideas, and that the kind of net output of that is a more creative end product. So I think it is going to boost creativity. I think we're going to see more hyper personalized assets, and beyond that, who knows? It's an exciting time.
Very exciting time. And that actually leads to our last question. And it's a question of mine. What advice would you give to teams that are looking to experiment with generative AI tools like Firefly for the very first time?
It's a good question. It's one of a few people have asked actually. I would always encourage people to try and start small with a relatively focused goal in mind, rather than just kind of jumping in and trying to do everything all at once, because it's very easy to get you're overwhelmed or lose focus. So almost maybe carve out a portion of a larger project and focus specifically on what you want to achieve in this almost trial or pilot phase. And then beyond that, I would really encourage people to experiment, and learn by doing. I think it's such a relatively new sector or specialism if you compare it to some of the more traditional creative specialisms where there's these more established training pathways where you can go and do a certification or a formal qualification. AI is so new and so fresh that they almost don't exist. So the only way you've got is to learn by doing at the moment. So I would really encourage people to jump in and learn by doing right now.
Well, I'm inspired, and I think all of our audience is as well. And we're all going to dive in. Andy, thank you so much to you and also your teams at Kinesso and Amazon Fresh for sharing with us today. It's been our pleasure.
No, my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Awesome. That was amazing and so insightful. But next, I'd like to bring up my colleague, Jacqueline, to talk about how you can get similar results on a smaller scale for your business. Jacqueline, it's great to see you.
Hello, I'm excited to dive in. Andy, that was just great to see. I mean, it really shows how Firefly can help you scale on brand content, but also enhance creativity. And it really ties into a little bit of what I'm going to showcase today.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I am leading our Firefly Custom Models. And as part of that, I want to dive into an overview, a little bit more about custom models, but then also how style references and composition references that Andy mentioned can really help you enhance and further hone your creative vision. So let's get started. Um, so custom models lets you train on your own brand assets. You only need about 10 to 30 assets to train it up. So it's not a massive data set. And it helps your teams, whether they're creative or marketing, to augment their ideas or really stay on brand. We have custom models integrated into a growing number of Adobe applications like Adobe Express, and you get enterprise level security, being able to, and to use our commercially safe Firefly generative AI models, as well as being able to share your trained models with specific team members, so you can kind of manage your projects and make sure that they're using the right model for the right use case. Now, custom models are great for creating consistent brand styles to quickly expand campaigns like you saw with Amazon Fresh. This could be a seasonal campaign, an evergreen campaign, or visuals that you want for a specific event. You can also shape a new brand identity by producing character themes in a consistent style and create on-brand ideas and concepts. So you can not only go through more ideas than ever before, like coming up with a cheese snowman, but you can also get stakeholder alignment a lot faster when your teams can visualize what you have in mind. What's your creative vision for the project? Now, custom models generate images, so you will need to bring in your image generated with a custom model for that last mile editing, maybe adding the text or the logo to then deliver your ad or social media post and so forth. So at Adobe, we have a powerful generative AI platform with a range of capabilities. Today, I'm going to show you text to image, or the kind of slot machine, as Andy put it, capabilities like style and composition references that really let you create variants that match a particular style or layout. So it helps you really personalize those assets. And also Firefly Custom Models, which, as we've mentioned, you can train with your own assets. But once it's trained, you can go back time and again and leverage that custom model to continue to create variations that are consistent with that brand style. Now, as Andy mentioned, custom models become much more powerful with the ability to use them with other customization tools like style and composition references to further tailor that content while maintaining the core aesthetic. So here you can see some images that were generated with a custom model. It's my client Mars Futurism campaign, and it really centers around this kind of glowing circle theme. But let's take a look at how I can create some variations on top of my custom model. So I'm going to start by changing up the aspect ratio. We'll see if we can get started here. I'm going to change the aspect ratio because I want some square assets. I also want some wide assets. And then I'm going to, it looks like we're having a challenge here. So we're going to then select this wide screen. This whole styles panel is available with custom models, so you have a lot to tinker with. And then I'm going to bring in the style reference, this serene golden hour look, and generate another image. And you can see that it combines not only the style reference, it's matching that serene kind of golden hour look, but it also keeps the core visual of my custom model with that circle aesthetic. And so you can see that it would really work as a through line into my broader campaign, but I'm able to quickly create variations on top of that custom model. Now, here you can see, and so I wanted to mention that style references and composition references are useful tools for custom models, but you can also just use them with Firefly. So let's say I'm working for a fictional company and I want to create a campaign to promote their partnership with AI technologies. Our goal is really to accelerate the ideation and create asset variations in a specific aesthetic. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with, what's my creative vision for this campaign? I have an idea of this kind of metallic color. I saw this the other day from one of my teammates, and I really think it will work well for this campaign. So I go to Firefly and I type in my prompt, and this is a good start, but not quite what I had in mind. So within our styles, I can actually upload an image of what I have in mind as a style reference. I can go select that asset from my file. I think this is the one. Let's check. Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that as a style reference. And I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge that I have the rights to this image. Now, once I've clicked through all of that, let's put in a prompt and let's generate it again. Oh, I also can make additional adjustments. So Andy mentioned this as well. This is the ability to adjust the strength or the visual intensity. So strength adjusts how strongly it should gain influence from that image reference, and visual intensity is increasing the visual characteristics in the image. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those up all the way, and let's see what the results are going to look like. Again, I've added my reference image, and I'm going to generate a new image. Wow, that is such a great match to what I had in mind, and it only took a matter of a few seconds. So this really shows you that without a custom model, you are able to do some customizations leveraging these kind of reference images. Maybe I want to create a variation. What if I want to create maybe a spiral sort of style? Well, I can just go ahead, change the prompt. I'm going to say metallics multicolor spiral. I'm going to generate a new set of images, and let's see. There you go. How easy was that? I now have an additional set of images that I can use to expand my campaign, creating more assets that are still picking up the same colors and textures, that visual style of that kind of metallic look and feel that I'm going for this campaign. But what if I want to now create a specific shape? Well, I can use composition references to upload an image to be able to generate outputs that kind of mimic that shape. So I'm going to go ahead and find another image to upload for a composition reference. I'm going to select a hand. Hand really tends to kind of indicate partnership. That's kind of what we're going for this campaign. So I'm going to open that up. And then I'm going to update my prompt here and generate. Look, that is such a great match. Not only does it reflect the style, but it also reflects that hand, that subject that I really wanted in my asset. So you can see how easy it can be to really scale out a handful of assets to not only prove out a set of concepts that maybe you want to show with your broader team, or to use for several different kind of campaigns, letting you maybe localize or tailor it to certain audiences. Another example here is a reference image with a shaking of a hand. Again, I really think this goes with my campaign around partnership. So I'm going to go ahead and download the assets that I like, the different images, and bring it into Photoshop. So in Photoshop and in our other Adobe applications, I can go ahead and do that last mile editing, bringing in the partnerships together matter tagline, adding in my logo, and then I can save out that asset and ship it or send it for review. So there are, you can see that it's an easy way to kind of build out those campaigns, but references are also a great way to build out additional training assets for custom models. So say you are ideating and you have a handful of starter images, but you want to hit that 10 to 30 image mark. Well, you can also leverage the references to kind of build out that library to then have enough images to train your custom model. Now, there are many ways that you can use composition references to further refine your outputs. I showcase here kind of a reference image of hands. Andy showcased that more wireframe approach. And to show another approach, I think we should go ahead and view this demo by my colleague, Ben Vanderberg.
When selecting an image for your web page, you may have certain requirements, particularly for images like your hero images. So for example, if we have a look here, we have most of our actual image here on the right-hand side and a little bit more open on the left so that we have space for our text. With Adobe Firefly, we can actually help inform this when we generate images to help us get the right image. So if I go into Adobe Firefly, I have generated a new image for a white cup of mint tea on a white saucer with mint leaves. Now we'll notice that this doesn't have any other parameters in it, and while it generates a nice image here, it doesn't really have exactly what I'm looking for, which is on the right-hand side. I might also want it from above so that it has a certain look to it. So to help me with this, there's a few things I can do. First off, if I scroll down to where it says styles on the left here, I can choose an image that I have to help inform the style. You'll see here that I have this coffee vibe image that gives a lot of the warmth and color that I would expect from a cafe that is somewhat similar to the one that I have on my web page here. So I'm going to first choose that one and use that as a style reference. Now, along with that, I'm also going to go up here to where it says composition and choose a composition reference. A composition reference allows me to upload an image that will tell Firefly that I want the cup that I described and to leave space on the left. Now, I can upload all sorts of images as composition reference, but it helps tell Firefly how I want this to look without having to describe that in a text prompt. So if I select that, I'm going to click on open here. And now in my prompt, you'll see that I have my prompt, I have my style reference, and my structure reference that are all going to come together to generate the image. So now if I click on generate, and there we go, here we can see we have a number of different images. The cup is on the right-hand side with the mint leaves, as well as gives us some of that space on the left. So we have that for our text. That with Firefly is composition reference, allowing me to upload an image to help inform how I want to compose my image, and style reference to make sure that I have the right vibe of my image so that it aligns with my brand.
As you can see, you can leverage style and composition references to inform the look, the layout, the shapes of the images that are generated both with Firefly and with your custom models. So I hope that this really showcases how it can enhance creativity, but also maintain that creative vision or that particular brand or campaign style. And with that, I'm going to send it back to you, Karina.
That was amazing, as always, Jacqueline. And it's so useful. And in just a sec, I'm going to bring Jacqueline back to answer some of the many questions asked by our live audience. But before we get to that, I'd like to check in with you, our audience, to get a sense of how you're feeling about the content we're sharing with you today. In just a moment, a poll will appear on your screen. It's short and sweet, just one question to help our team at Adobe gauge how we can help your team get started with Firefly. So give it a little quick answer. And we're thrilled that you are part of us here attending Create Branded Content. All right. So with that brief break, let's bring Jacqueline back and answer some of your questions. Hello again, Jacqueline.
Hello.
So awesome to see that incredible workflow and to see the customization. I especially loved the hand example and that partnerships one. Shall we get into some questions?
Yes, let's dive in.
Awesome. So Chad is asking, do our training images get used for other people's models, or are they only used for our own training purposes?
Yeah, so when it comes to custom models, your trained assets remain within your organization. We do not train our foundational models on our customer content.
Great answer. And I'm also curious, is the content, safe for business use? It's kind of related to Chad's question a little bit.
Yeah, so Firefly and our Firefly models are designed to be commercially safe. So they're safe for business. And so when you're leveraging the references, those should be safe for business, assuming that you do have the rights to the images that you're bringing into the workflow.
That's right. I remember you referenced it, a little, indicator pops up saying, make sure you have the right. So that's a good reminder to all of us. We've got another question from Lynn, who is asking, can we create different models to train, since one of my company might need different types of images? Can different models be trained?
Yes, that's actually a great way to have a workflow. So you might have one model trained for your spring campaign and one for your summer campaign, or one for one brand and one for another, with a specific style. So each model is trained on a single kind of style or subject. As Andy mentioned, you don't want it to be too broad. The model won't know what to pick up on. So you really have to train it so that it generates in the style that you want it to.
Yeah, that's interesting because what I'm getting is so much of the creative intention is still there, right? Like any project that we have to remember what is the goal of that. So really locking in on those main images is awesome, and that's great to know that you can train different models there. Let's see, we've got another question asking, what format are exported images in? Are they flattened or are there layers?
They're in a flattened format today. Yeah.
More to come, maybe. We'll see. We'll see on that. But as it stands today, flattened images. Okay,
We have
we got
flattened images. Yeah.
awesome. And we've got another question from Jason who asked, are custom models secured for the purposes of working on highly sensitive material?
Yes. So again, your content that you're training the model with stays within your organization. There are also more granular governance where, like I mentioned, you can share with specific people. So you can say, I only want this particular team member to be able to review. I only want this particular team member to be able to generate with the custom model. And then when they're in the application and they're ready to kind of generate a new image and use a custom model, they'll only see what is available to them.
That's awesome. That's great. So
Mhm.
it allows customers to be able to have some sensitive training things. Well, not training things, sensitive material rather. That is great to
Yeah,
know.
it's that, and also to just let the creative teams can kind of guide that vision, train that model, and then share it out so that other folks within their organization, like your marketing team, can also be creating content that's aligned with your vision or your brand. So it really helps make that brand consistency a lot easier for the teams.
Yeah, which is so important. I feel like relevant to so many of the folks in the audience today, where at the end of the day, brand control is so important. And that's always one of the goals. So I
Mhm.
love hearing the details behind that. We've got another question from Eric who asked, can I match my company's color palette in custom models? How does it work with color palettes?
Yes, so you can train models with your company's color palette, but it may not be pixel perfect to the exact hex code every time. So with the technology, generative AI, there can be hallucinations and variations. So it's not going to be 100% all of the time. But if it's incorporated in your reference images that you are training the model on, then it will be in that kind of color vein.
That is so cool. Now, we've got a question about vector images from Angie, who is asking, is there a way to produce vector images with custom models?
Not at this time, but it is a common request.
Got it. Yeah. And I know right now in Illustrator, you can use text to vector. That's one way to start working with, vectors and things like
Mhm.
that. So that's a great question and I think a common one. So, Angie, thank you for asking that. And we've got Brian who is asking, what resolution are the images produced by the custom models typically?
Yeah, they're 2,000 to four, like 2 to 4K, I think is the resolution.
Mhm.
Um, we have a lot of tech details. We could, resources to go deep on size of images, the best size and resolution of training images, like all sorts of best practices, how to best caption your assets for training, how to best prompt, like prompt formulas. So when you're using a custom model, we really want to help, guide you to success.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a great point that there's, and Andy mentioned it before, it's so new and fresh, pun intended, that there are so many resources online to be able to look. And you mentioned prompting being so important. I know we've got a few prompt guides online,
Mhm.
both for Firefly on the web, Firefly video model. So definitely check those out for those tuning in now. We've got time for one last question, and it's regarding branded packaging in with AI generated images. So Dominique is asking, any recommendations on how to incorporate branded packaging into AI generated images?
Yes, we've had some customers actually leverage generative AI to help with their packaging. Maybe it's like maybe they have a product and it's in a box, and they want to generate the background of that box, and
Mhm.
so that product can be in like different cities or locales, and you can create those variations. So that's one option, and then also look at Substance 3D. We have a lot of powerful capabilities there for package design, and our generative AI.
Yeah, lots of great stuff with Substance. I love seeing all of the possibilities as it relates to generative AI and Firefly. And Jacqueline, that's all the time we have today. And thank you, everyone, for all your questions. Thank you, Jacqueline, again, for your amazing demo and answering the countless questions that we got. You're the best. And we'll see you next time.
All right, see ya.
Awesome. That was amazing. And those questions were phenomenal. Thank you all for that engagement. And with that, our time together is come to a wrap. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you'll join our next event live on April 3rd, where we'll discuss how Frame.io mobile enhances video production and Adobe Photoshop mobile improves asset refinement. It's been such a pleasure spending time with you all this morning. I'm Karina Anglada with Adobe, and we'll see you next time.